Alright guys, welcome back to another ball knowledge to fall asleep to. This one is actually going to be wingers edition. So everything that you see in this video is going to be about wingers in football, past or present. As you guys may or may not know, I make another episode of these every time the previous episode hits 100k. So expect the next one in maybe 4 months. Of course, I also use these as a way to update you guys on what's going on the channel right now. So I just want to say thank you for the support on it so far. You know, maybe in a month or two we might even hit 100k. I just got to keep grinding and pushing out really different videos that not a lot of people are doing. I've been struggling with a lot of frustrations when it comes to the editors that I work with, you know, ghosting me and, you know, not giving back footage that I give to them and stuff like that. So I've took it on myself to just hand edit just every single video and, you know, take the burden on myself rather than relying on other people to help. Hopefully 100k on YouTube will be around the corner, but make sure you keep up to date with me, you know, on Instagram, because I post there every single day. You know, people see me all the time. You know, the other day I got recognized in a random Sainsbury's and I was looking at the Pringles aisle and a guy came up to me and he's asking me for a photo. You know, shout out to Thomas. You know, shout out to Thomas and his mum, because you caught me at my lowest point looking for Pringles in a Haringey Sainsbury's. I'm finished. But yeah, hold me accountable on Instagram, pester me when uploads are coming out, and give me video ideas if you want. And also, I am slowly but surely going to be launching a second channel. It will be linked, you know, in the description, and over there, I don't know, give me suggestions of what you want me to make, because it's just going to be about anything. I don't really mind. If you want me to talk about football there, I will. But if you want me to talk about just life and advice and stuff like that, then let me know as well. We can talk about anything. Breakfast. I can make a whole video about breakfast. I can talk about anything for days, but it's the editing that is just so long. Anyways, guys, you probably want to go sleep, so let me just play the winger stuff, and if you want to hear me ramble on a little bit, wait till the end and timestamp where you fell asleep. Good night. Now, in the past year, there's been a bunch of chatter about how the position of a winger is dead, claiming that wingers are a dying breed in football. From the days of these players cutting in, shooting, running to the byline and taking on their defenders, they have been restricted and held to play like absolute doo-doo. But after witnessing the season that just finished and also the Euros, I think it's time that we reevaluate this topic. And I think we can come to the conclusion that wingers are not dying. I think that wingers, like many other positions in football, are going through this transition. And it's actually a transition that hasn't really affected much in the game. Like, realistically, the transition that wingers are going through is nowhere near as close to how important the transition that defenders went through from the 2000s into the 2010s, where we went from having individuals in defensive systems that would kind of lead the line to systems coming in and all players in a line being able to hold their own weight. So with wingers going through their own metamorphosis, I think a new golden era is just over the horizon, with sparks of brilliance popping up in different areas of the world. From the local brilliance that was Michael Olise balling out for Crystal Palace before achieving a move to Bayern Munich, all the way to Estevão Willian, whose flair in the Brazilian league has secured him a move to Chelsea. There are many wingers in football right now that are showing potential to be special, and I think I can proudly say that real wingers are coming back to football. And in other words, the era of wingers is here. Now, first of all, let's just get things straight. The concept of a real winger isn't dead, it's just transformed. In the past, many wingers like Robben, Ribery, Bale, they dazzled us with their directness and flair, being able to take on a defender whenever they'd like to. But football has seen this tactical evolution that people like to call the Pep Guardiolaization of football. This means that new systems demand more from wingers, meaning that yes, a winger can be more direct, but you're going to often see them track back and do a lot of the gritty defensive work that you would never see the likes of Ronaldinho, Ribery and Robben do in the past. So wingers have developed, football has developed, and defensive systems have also changed. In the early 2000s, wingers thrived on taking on their defender one-on-one in these ISO battles, and week after week we would see our favourite winger at the time go up against a fullback, most of the time absolutely destroying them. But today, defenses are a lot more organized, especially at the professional level, with low blocks and zonal marking making it way harder for wingers to exploit space. But here's the thing, if defenses were going to evolve, then of course wingers were going to evolve too. And it just so happens that in the last 2 or 3 years, these wingers are coming to fruition. The guys that can not only directly attack you, but can also track back, take the ball off you and do it again. And a bunch of them even played in fullback positions in their youth years. Look at the likes of Saka, going from a left back to a prolific right winger in world football. He for me is the perfect example of a modern winger. The guy can do the gritty stuff at the back, but when it's on the front foot, he can take on a man, step inside and finish bottom left corner. So essentially modern wingers are real wingers that are more versatile and adaptable. And I guess it is a shame for the entertainment side of football. The likes of Neymar couldn't really keep up with the new wingers that are in football today, because even though he is levels above every single winger in world football when it comes to attacking, on the defensive end of things, Neymar was hardly tracking back. He was hardly getting back to, make a tackle and help the team. For me, Neymar is the definition of a real winger. Throughout his career, he was dominant, playing on the left-hand side at Barcelona and then translating his game when he made that massive move to PSG. And I remember the day specifically that I said, you know what, this guy is my favorite player. It was 2013 and a young school Jib was watching the Confederations Cup final. Now Neymar and Brazil took on Spain, and if we were looking at these squads man to man, we were thinking in our heads that Spain were going to get this over the line. But one man said otherwise, and from the first minute he dictated the entire flow of the game. The way the pace of the game changed depended on the way he played. When he had the ball at his feet, it's like you were watching the game in slow motion. He was playing passes here and there, and eventually he got his goal. Neymar ran rampant, dominating this Spanish defense with the likes of Piqué, Jordi Alba and Sergio Ramos. He was not only the star man, but the standout man in this team of Brazilian misfits. A Brazilian side that was reconstructing itself after having a golden era in the 2000s. But that did not stop Neymar Jr. from showing the world that he was not only a brilliant player, but a brilliant winger. Taking on his man whenever he could, pace in behind, could take the ball to feet, dropping in deep to help the midfield build up play. It was outstanding. And that week I remember asking my mum to buy me some hypervenoms. I wanted to play just like Neymar. As of recording this video, Lamine Yamal has created the most big chances in the top 5 leagues this season. And in my opinion, he has single-handedly revitalized this position with his raw on-ball ability, stepping up for both club and country at just 17 years old. And although he might not be at the level of the wingers I mentioned at the start of the video just yet, he is 17 years old and one of the sole reasons I'm making a video about this position, spearheading this new era of wingers by being one of the best, most creative on-the-ball players in the world. He also is a clear leader when it comes to attempted take-ons in the top 5 leagues. Standing above all your favorite wingers, Lamine Yamal has attempted 227 take-ons this season. That is crazy. And when you actually compare it to second place, it gets even crazier. Because in second place is Jeremy Doku with 164. That is the difference of 60 attempted take-ons. And these are not take-ons where he's just getting 2-foot tackled. Lamine Yamal has a 49.8% successful take-on rate. So that means 1 in 2 dribbles are successful every single time. So if you somehow tackle him on the first attempt, on the second attempt he's going to be leaving you munching dirt on the grass, maybe put you in an early burial, because he's not letting that slide again. Lamine Yamal has come onto the scene and displayed this raw, ruthless ability, and for me, the only other player that I've seen come close in recent times was young Kylian Mbappe, when he was taking on Argentina, winning the World Cup at 19 years of age. This is the only player that I can really compare Yamal to. And even then, Mbappe was aura farming in the French league. He was at Monaco, then moved to PSG, and the whole time he's in a league that isn't the most competitive.
Too competitive, it's good to be competitive.
But Yamal is different. This is a new kid on the block and he is just taking it there to anyone. It's on site. Doesn't matter if it's Real Madrid. He is going to bury you. And what I really love about his play is that he's a creator first, an original type of winger. He's not someone that is always looking for goal. Most of the time, he's looking to pass. And it just shows in his stats so far this season. In La Liga, he has 11 assists and 6 goals as of making this video. Now, from a winger that recently spawned into this universe to one that has been around for years, a timeless player that honestly, would I really consider him a winger at this point? Or is he a wide forward? Is he just a forward? There's no point making a video about wingers without mentioning Mohamed Salah. Leading in goals this season in the top 5 leagues and assists, Mo Salah is showing that it does not matter what age you are, you can still ball out on a weekly basis. And even though this guy has suffered L's this season, one against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final and against PSG in the Champions League, that does not take away the fact that he has absolutely dominated the Premier League this season, to the point where people were calling off the league back in February. Salah is one of these players that completely influenced the role of a winger in modern football, redefining their expectations with his goal-scoring prowess. But that doesn't take away any of his ability to create for his teammates, because as you can see this season, he nearly has 20 assists in the league alone. Traditionally, wingers were tasked with delivering crosses into the box, but after the appearance of Mo Salah, under the tactical system that Klopp had, him and the likes of Sadio Mane completely redefined this role, making them kind of a threat to the opposition in a more goal-scoring sense. And despite being nearly 33 years old, he is on track to have one of his best seasons of his entire career. With 27 goals and 18 assists while making this video, Salah is en route to become one of the all-time greats. And I think this stat that I found perfectly summarizes how he's changed his game, because this season he is averaging 12.56 progressive passes of the ball per 90, showing that he's taken more of a playmaking style to the way he's altered his game this season. And even though we still see him bombarding down the pitch on the transition, he can be a conductor, play the orchestra with a guy with the stick just moving it about. That is Salah. And again, despite his setbacks this season, that does not take away anything that he has achieved. He should be respected as not only just a winger, but one of the best wingers of the last 10 years. Jamie Bino Gittens. With 2 goals off the bench in his first game this season, Bino Gittens is on the verge of having a breakout campaign, especially after only being started in 14 of Dortmund's games last season. He is the latest English talent to emerge from Dortmund's academy, joining from Manchester City in 2020. Shortly after his arrival, Gittens suffered a ligament tear in his ankle, sidelining him for several months. But despite that setback, he really got back up and managed to still showcase his potential, excelling for Dortmund's under-19s in the UEFA Youth Cup, scoring 6 goals in 5 appearances, which ultimately led to him being started in a first-team game. He primarily operates as a left winger, but can also utilize his game on the right-hand side too, causing problems for defenders with his unpredictability. But if you've actually watched him play, you would know that he loves to cut inside onto his right foot and take shots. He's also a high-volume dribbler, with close control and the ability to get past his man with ease. The now 20-year-old recently came off the bench for Dortmund and took over the entire game, scoring once with his trademark finish with a cut inside on the left flank, and then again to double his tally, leading the counter-attack for Dortmund before slipping the ball through the keeper's legs. All the signs are saying that this guy will carry on this form for the entirety of the season, and I am here to back it, mainly because he's one of these wingers that you love to watch, a high volume winger. Like last season, his shots per game were 3.61, higher than the likes of Garnacho, Savinho and Nico Williams, yet his goal tally only amounted to 2. So if he really worked hard in pre-season and refines that part of his game, then who knows? He could potentially shoot right up there with some of the most prolific young wingers in football. He also averaged 3.92 shot creating actions per 90 from only 15 starts. That is unreal when you talk about productivity with minimum game time. But this season he has started off like a man on a mission, and like Tom Cruise, I'm hoping that Gittens can pull off the impossible and thrive this season. We need to talk about Jarrod Bowen, because I don't know how many seasons this guy has been putting up consistent numbers in the Premier League, but ever since making that move to West Ham, he's been a constant threat. Some of the goals in his catalogue have been absolutely outrageous during his entire time at West Ham, and even in their seasons where they've struggled. Even this season, he still showed up with like 11 goals, 9 assists in the league. With goals against the likes of Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal. He scored 2 against Manchester United this season. This guy doesn't really care. He can be technical and, take on a defender and also slot it in. And he can also take you down the line. Jarrod Bowen constantly is one of these players that just gets completely overlooked, yet he puts up consistent numbers year in and year out. It doesn't make sense. He can be utilized in all the front 3 positions and even drop in as a 10. He's fluid, relentless, and has a work rate of a player that is playing for a lesser team. He is going to press the defense. And again, he is one of the most underrated wingers in the league by everyone, but of course West Ham fans. Because if you're a West Ham fan watching this, you know how much Jarrod Bowen means means to your club. Now, Kairo Matoma is a left winger of Brighton Hove Albion in the Premier League, and this guy is one of the best 1v1 wingers in football, you know, and full stop. That's it. And he's one of these wingers that has a goal catalogue to die for. For the last 3 years, he's just been balling. For the last year, he's been balling. And you just see these little moments of individual brilliance, like his goal against Chelsea when Brighton won 3-0 this season. He is one of the best first touches in the Premier League, and an amazing ability to go from 0 to 100 in a 1v1 take-on scenario. He also can adapt well to play defensively and has been used as a wing-back before under Graham Potter at Brighton. And even since Brighton have gone through so many transitions with players coming and going, Mitoma has been a constant that has offered you attack and defense to die for. This season he's put up 10 goals and 3 assists in all competitions, and again, he is not one of these players that you can really look at the stats and say, this is how good Kairo Mitoma is. It's his in-game ability to just dictate the play. And if I'm being honest, while I've been speaking about Kairo Mitoma, it's opened up this bigger topic of all the underrated wingers that are in the Premier League right now. Brian Mbeumo is a winger that is playing for Brentford and has got 18 goals and 8 assists this season. For Brentford. You know, I only heard that Brentford existed last year. I didn't even know that this was an area in London. You know, ever since the departure of Ivan Toney, this guy just stepped in like I've been here all along. Even though I look 32. Completely bold. I'm 25 and I still got promise. You've also got Newcastle. Anthony Gordon on the left-hand side that, again, when I see him press, I'm impressed because he shows that aggressiveness that someone like a Martinelli of Arsenal doesn't have. The willingness to go and get the ball back. And he also puts up some decent goals and assist numbers. You've also on the other side got Jacob Murphy, who's been, you know, a creative hub for Newcastle this season. And despite him being at the back end of his career at Newcastle, and you know, they could probably improve on that side, he's given you steady numbers and he's given you performances. In the Prem, we've also got a Noni Madueke. And despite Chelsea being, you know, a bit topsy-turvy, shaky, Noni is, again, one of these 1v1 specialists that has one of the worst end products ever. But again, with time and consistency, he can be there doing it on a weekly basis. Manchester United also have Amad Diallo, who is just recently coming back from injury and taking over the games. I saw him the other day in his cameo against Athletic Club in the Europa League where Manchester United won 4-1. I saw the way he was playing with fluidity, taking on the man, aggressiveness, directness. That's what Man United need. That's a real winger. Savio, underrated season with some decent numbers. This guy is 21 and this is his first season in the Premier League and he's provided Manchester City with 10 assists. And they've also got Jeremy Doku, someone that I once claimed to be the second coming of Ronaldinho. Maybe I went a bit overboard there. But Doku was up there with the likes of Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams for, you know, attempted take-ons with a 45% successful take-on rate. And this guy is constantly, you know, abusing wing-backs in the league. It doesn't really matter if he comes on for 5 minutes or if he starts the game. He's going to terrorize the wings of the pitch. But let's just calm down with this Premier League glaze. Premier League heads, all they talk about Premier League, Premier League, Premier League, Premier League. Well, Ligue 1, French League. They have some wingers too.
All in France is PSG. The rest is finished.
We have to talk about the wingers that PSG have at their disposal, because this team have Bradley Barcola, Ousmane Dembele, Desiree Doué, and Kavicha Kvaratskhelia. Bro, this is not normal. There are clubs in football that would die for one of these players, and they have 4 of them that are all interchangeable, all operating in alternate positions on the pitch. Dembele is being deployed as sort of a centre forward and is having his best season of his career. And in 2025 alone, he scored over 15 goals. That's not the 2025 season. That's since the start of the year, with big performances against the likes of Lille, Marseille and Lyon. He has hit a peak that we all hope that he can sustain, and I spoke about it in a previous video, but again, he's one of these players that has always had the talent, he's always had the ability, but when push comes to shove, he's never really done it. But now he's in a system with all these other young wingers around him. He's looking like the elder statesman and he's really being the role model in this squad. From being left out in the Champions League group stage against Arsenal where they lost 2-0 to reforming his entire season, getting back in the squad, balling out, scoring goals, and now he has led PSG to a semi-final against Arsenal again. Bradley Barcola has also been flying high this season with 18 goals and 16 assists. At 22 years old, he's already filled the hole that Mbappe left on that left-hand side, moving to Real Madrid, putting up 34 GA as of making this video. But it's not just the goals, it's not just the assists, again, it's the performances. Like his performance against Manchester City in the Champions League, where he was just toying around with these players. But I think what really impresses me with Barcola is that he is a traditional winger. He is comfortable to take you down the line, whether he's playing on the left flank or the right flank, keeping you on your toes all game and hugging the byline of the pitch. He can also beat players with ease 1v1 and get in behind too. And constantly when watching him play, he reminds me of a young Leroy Sané, just a bit more lanky and dangly, kind of like the Slender Man version of Leroy Sané. And on the other hand, PSG have another winger called Desiree Doué. Younger than Barcola at just 19, Doué has picked up 11 goals and 11 assists this season. And he is another one of PSG's wingers that has just displayed his brilliance constantly when given the chance. He has been widely compared to Neymar just based on his style of play. And although I think that's a bit of a stretch, you got to calm down a little bit, Desiree Doué does have what it takes to probably make it as an elite winger. Moving to PSG from Stade Rennais for £42 million as an attacking midfielder, Desiree Doué has completely altered the way his game works, expanding his ball control, manipulation in tight spaces, and ability to find space. Averaging 5.66 progressive carries per 90, he is just a joy to watch really. Honestly, kind of displaying the same way in which he dribbles to the likes of Neymar, with every movement honestly looking choreographed and fluid as ever. And lastly, from this crew of PSG wingers, we have to talk about Ivica Kvaratskhelia. Helping Napoli win the Serie A in 2023-24, he was a vital piece of this team. Scoring 12 goals that season and getting 13 assists, he formed an amazing duo with Osimhen up top. And with all this, his move to PSG just seemed to come out of nowhere. But ever since swapping the south of Italy for France, he has seamlessly slotted into Luis Enrique's system. Not the most clinical winger of all time, what I really like about Ivica is that he is a high volume shot taker. And I think the perfect example of this came against Liverpool in the Champions League, where he displayed that every time he got even an inch in front of the goal, he was popping shots and making things happen. And it wasn't just against Liverpool. In the next round against Aston Villa, he scored a brilliant goal, displaying all abilities of a really classic winger. But these four wingers are clearly balling out for PSG this season. They've already won the French league, they're still in the Champions League, and if one doesn't step up on the night, another one will. Michael Olise is another winger that we must talk about, and even though he doesn't do a lot of talking, I'll do it for him. Michael Olise is a chance creating merchant, and maybe it's because of his history as playing as a number 10 for Reading. Before his move to Crystal Palace, this guy was prolific and actually was the best player in the Championship at one point. Coming off an injury at the start of the season, this guy played like he had a point to prove, averaging 2.9 successful dribbles per 90 and also contributing to 10 goals. Of course, we have to take in the fact that he did get injured in the season again, but he has made that move to Bayern Munich now, and hopefully he can replicate that form that we saw from him last season on a grander scale. In his first season for Bayern Munich, he has 13 goals and 16 assists, and them numbers are only going to go up. He has transitioned amazingly from playing for Crystal Palace, being one of the main guys there, to having to take a sort of a back seat for Bayern Munich, where he's not the star man, but one of their best wingers. In my opinion, he's one of the most well-rounded wingers in world football, despite playing in the Bundesliga, helping Bayern also lead the charge for the league title too. Since confirming his transfer to Bayern, he had an amazing Olympic tournament where he was managed by Thierry Henry. Then he was called up for the senior team for France and started and scored a free kick, and all these things are just happening so fast in his career, and I think his trajectory is just going to go like this. And in the top 5 leagues this season, he sits second when it comes to big chances created, behind only Lamine Yamal, and in front of the likes of Rafinha and Saka. And talking about Saka, this is a guy that I claim to be an S-tier winger. And am I wrong? Somebody tell me that I'm wrong, and you can get RKO'd like John Cena did. Because as of writing this video, Saka had 10 goals and 14 assists whilst playing 26 games. And since writing this video, he has played 2 legs against Real Madrid and turned up in both of them. In the first leg, created both of the free kicks that Rice actually finished off, and in the second leg he was the main man. And before this tie with Real Madrid, Saka was injured for 122 days, and despite being out for that time, missing 23 games, Saka was still sitting at third when it comes to big chances created in the top 5 European leagues. Do you want me to repeat that for you, or should we just play it in slow motion and react?
In the top 5 European leagues.
Yeah, having played an average of 12 games less than the likes of Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, Michael Olise, Salah, Saka was still there, chilling with them like he was balling out week in and week out. But he was chilling at home, doing therapy, playing FIFA. I don't know what else he does at home. I wish I knew. Think about the numbers that he would have been pulling out. Think about what could have happened. Because Rafinha right now is up for a Ballon d'Or, and he's at the same stage of the Champions League as Saka. And talking about Rafinha, we're going to talk about Rafinha. He has been involved in over 50% of Barcelona's 83 goals this season. That is crazy to say. He also has like 15 goals and 5 assists in the Champions League alone. With a strong case for him winning the Ballon d'Or this season, we will have to see how it all plays out. And from a winger that could win the Ballon d'Or this year to a winger that maybe should have won the Ballon d'Or last year, we have to talk about Vinny Jr. Now, I feel like every Real Madrid player's stocks are just completely down after this season. But can I really blame Vinny Jr.? No. Not really, because despite him having a very poor season, he's got 19 goals and 13 assists. He's still given you the numbers, but he just hasn't given you the moments. And I think it's because all the spotlight has been on Mbappe. But just remember that Vinny Jr. is still that guy. He was Mr. Champions League last year and has been carrying Real Madrid, of course with Benzema, who eventually left, but this guy was a real pioneer for, you know, the transition period that Real Madrid went through. And fans turn on him just like that. Everyone turns on him just like that. But I can guarantee you that he is not done. We also have Newcastle's underrated duo of wingers.
Who? Tell me who?
Nobody really thought I was going to talk about these two, did you? No one thought that. No one thought that. No one even wants it, I bet. And honestly, this next winger that you guys have begged me to talk about, in my opinion, is not a winger. Ryan Cherki of Lyon could be one of the best 10s in football. And what I mean by 10 is an attacking midfielder. I don't think he is going to be a right winger. I think you need more dynamism on the flanks of the pitch. But going forward, if he just takes up more of a central position, he could be utilized even more. This season for Lyon, he's got 12 goals and 19 assists in all competitions, being honestly a beacon of their creativity all season long. He's one of these players that can just pull out a bit of trickery. We saw cameos, you know, against Manchester United in the Europa League, where everyone was watching him finally, but throughout the entire season he's put up very solid performances. And my favourite of his this season had to be against Rangers in the Europa League, where this was probably my first time really watching him for him, and he pulled out 2 assists and was just pulling the strings like a puppet master. He was just playing about with the team. Lyon would win the game 4-1, but again, he was my man of the match. And in the group stage of the Europa League, he did the same thing to Frankfurt, where he scored 1 and got 2 assists again. Let's talk about the next winger, Rafael Leao. How could I not even really mention him in, you know, the proper video to this? What's going on? Milan, in my opinion, haven't been the best this season, but Leao has still given you numbers. The 25-year-old has his entire career ahead of him. And, you know, he does other things with his career. He has clothing. He also makes music. So, of course, maybe he wanted to just take a year off being one of the best wingers in world football. That's what I think it is. I think he just had a little chill year. Gap year. But he's going to come back stronger next year. This season, he's given AC Milan 12 goals and 13 assists in all competitions. But there have been constant question marks that have been dangled in front of his head. Because in a lot of the big games that AC Milan have played this season, he's not really been a force to be reckoned with like previous years, because he's someone that has always risen to occasions. Where there is a known defender in front of him, he will put a smile on his face and take them down the line time and time again. And whilst we're chilling in Serie A in Italy with Milan, let's talk about, you know, Kenan Yildiz. Obviously we can't stay in Milan, we're in Turin now, but Kenan Yildiz has been good too. You know, he scored a humble 6 goals and got 3 assists in the league this season, but I think the performance that really made me think, okay, cool, this guy has what it takes, was when Inter and Juve drew 4-4 and Yildiz got 2 goals in the game. And he, like, the finishes, we need more of this. If he can just become more clinical and can master the art of finishing, he can be one of the best wingers in football. Next up is Noni Madueke. Now Madueke has started off his season perfectly, bagging a hat-trick against Wolves. And with those 3 finishes, he already has over half of the amount of goals he got in the entirety of the Premier League last season. And I think this is just the beginning of a really productive season for Madueke. I think that if he is able to hold down the right wing spot at Chelsea, he could easily bag over 10 goals this season. And with the directness in his play, we can all really understand why he carries this arrogant persona when playing, because he knows that he's going to back up his talk on the pitch. Last season he finished with 11 GA whilst being in and out of the side, and even then that's still higher than the likes of Martinelli and Kingsley Coman. I think if Madueke gets into his stride, he could be a very important and pivotal player in this team. Just look at how often Chelsea are being put onto the back foot in games. Having someone like Madueke to carry the ball forwards on the counter-attack will be crucial, and I'm sure him linking up with the likes of Cole Palmer, Pedro Neto and even João Felix will do a whole worlds of good for Madueke and Chelsea's success. People forget, but Madueke was 18 years old playing like this in 2020 for PSV. In the same squad as Donyell Marlin and Cody Gakpo, this guy put up 7 goals and 4 assists whilst only starting 7 of them games. Of course he featured a lot off the bench, but still, them numbers were unreal. That guy was 18 doing it in 2020. Now, he's of course gonna, flourish in this Chelsea side where he can be one of the main men. Now, after re-evaluating my opinion on Rafinha, I've come to terms with the fact that he is an underrated winger, not only by football, but by me. I, like a lot of people, completely overlooked his output for Barcelona. Labelled by many as inconsistent, he has actually been a crucial forward for the likes of Barcelona and also Brazil. And I think it's because the football media world is just so loud. Lamine Yamal this, Bellingham that, Endrick this, Jib this. Standout players seem to get overshadowed by their younger counterparts. And of course it's not like I watch La Liga week in and week out, but just seeing a handful of Rafinha's performances, you can tell that he has an impact. Not only seen through the eye test, but also statistics too. In the last year, he has averaged 5.28 shot creating actions per 90 minutes. That's insane. For context, the average for a winger is 3.95, with the highest echelon being Florian Wirtz, who averaged over 6 last season. Rafinha also totaled 7 goals and 9 assists in just 18 starts last season, playing 29 games, starting 18 and having 16 GA. I think it's time that I take a seat and start to respect this guy. And there's no real excuse because we all saw Rafinha's performance in the Champions League last season. Quarter-final, first leg against PSG, this guy turned up. Before his first goal, he started off the game already threatening this PSG defense. But then Lamine Yamal flicks the ball with the outside of his boot into the box. And after evading Lewandowski and the goalkeeper, the ball ends up at the feet of who? Rafinha, who places the ball into the back of the net, making it look way too easy. Because if that was me, I'm booting that into 7 different rows. But PSG form a comeback, making it 2-1 by the 50th minute. But again, the Brazilian within Rafinha awoke. Just 10 minutes later, a running behind and a picture-perfect pass by Pedri picked out who? Rafinha, who volleyed it into the bottom left corner. Barcelona would win the game but eventually lose the tie, with PSG winning the return fixture. Rafinha again getting on the score sheet. Although I do stand by my opinion of Rafinha being a little bit inconsistent every time I watch him, I do think that he could be a part of the upper echelon of wingers in football. And all it will really take is him starting in that 11 week in and week out, even if he does pivot from being a winger into a central attacking midfielder. And if I really want to build a case for this said argument, take a look at Rafael Leao's stats from last season. He got 11 goals and 9 assists in domestic competitions last season, just 4 more than Rafinha. But remember, Rafinha started 12 less games, having more of an impact off the bench. If he can just transition that into impact when starting, then I'm sure Hansi Flick will have a role lined up for Rafinha week in and week out. We also have Nico Williams, who is one of my favourite players to watch whenever I get the opportunity to. Playing for Athletic Club in Spain, the brother of Inaki Williams is again showing that he is one of the best wingers in football. Grabbing 9 goals and 7 assists this season, Nico Williams is third when it comes to take-ons attempted in all top 5 leagues this season, behind the likes of Lamine Yamal and Jeremy Doku. Averaging 3.45 successful take-ons per 90, he clearly shows, whenever you will watch him play, that he is a vital part of Athletic Club's attack. And I think he's been showing it in the Europa League, where a lot of, worldwide football fans would have seen him play. But he doesn't just ball out for club, he balls out for his country, Spain too, whether it's in the Euros, in the final against England, or even in the Nations League. He was one of the key vital players against Netherlands, with him scoring a goal in the game, but also creating the build-up that led to Marino's last-minute goal in the same game. Rodrigo of Real Madrid is also another winger that is very underappreciated by Real Madrid fans. And despite being absolutely ridiculed by an 18-year-old in the Champions League quarterfinals, Rodrigo has proven time and time again that he is a baller. He's not just a guy that is going to go and be the shadow to Vini Jr. and Mbappe. He's someone that can create an entire new legacy at a different club, scoring 13 goals and 9 assists this season whilst not being the main threat in the attack. And since 2019, only Vini Jr. and Benzema have more goals and assists than him, clearly displaying the lack of recognition that he gets. Bradley Barcola, in my opinion, is the most underrated left winger in football right now. This is a winger who has averaged 6.43 progressive carries per game. A dribbling merchant, rapid and direct in the transition, Barcola has everything it takes to become a world-class winger. And with the recent departure of Kylian Mbappe, Barcola will have the entirety of the Parc de France as his dance floor. Now, there were a lot of journalists linking PSG with a bunch of left wingers, but in my opinion, this is Barcola's time to shine, and I think he knows that. In this youthful PSG side, I can see Barcola becoming formidable on the offensive, and his underlying stats back this up too. With a 48.2% success rate for take-ons, this guy is guaranteed to be productive on the left wing. And there's no point me even talking about it, let me just show you. In PSG's first home game this season against Montpellier, who opened the scoring? None other than Barcola. After a solo run down the left flank, you can't make this up. And he went on to score another in the same game. The soon-to-be 22-year-old winger is destined for greatness, especially with some of the players that are around him in this side. And even though he combined for 11 GA last season, with more opportunity, these statistics will refine themselves. Watching Barcola is reminiscent of the golden era of wingers. The ability to cut inside but also go on the outside of your defender. Comfortable playing on both sides of the pitch. And tidy feet on the ball. I'm telling you, when you see Barcola with the long sleeves and the gloves, defenders better start taking paracetamol, because they're going to be in for a headache. Now, recently on social media, I've been seeing a lot of talk about how real wingers are dead. Now, if I'm being honest, this video should be about 5 seconds, because answering the question, are real wingers dead? It's just a no. Look at the likes of Mitoma, Kavicha Kvaratskhelia, Rafael Leao, Vini Jr. All these players still exist. They're still playing. So real wingers are not dead. The winger, playing on either the left side or the right side, their main job was to cut inside and be very direct with their play. Real wingers would take on their defenders at any given opportunity and really break them down during a game. At every opportunity, they were, trying to harass their defender by either running at them or running in behind to receive a through ball. But many years have gone past and football has developed. Defensive systems have got better, meaning that wingers have become less effective. Why have wingers become less effective? There is a very finite amount of real wingers in modern football at the moment. There aren't as many out and out ballers playing at your teams anymore because defensive systems have changed. Football has been modernized and has become way more defensively solid. Sorry for the S on that one, it was a bit. We have Grealish, Vinicius Jr., Kavicha for Napoli. These players have based their skills and the way they play on real wingers, taking on a defense at every given opportunity and linking up with the other forwards on the pitch when it comes to maybe past the 20-yard mark. Now, defensive systems being improved has caused wingers to go into their shell a little bit. We hardly see the flary, creative players like the likes of Ronaldinho anymore that are just taking on about 10 man a game, just rinsing people, leaving people in the dust. There is no player that is doing that. Once in a blue moon does Rafael Leao go on a treacherous run taking on about 7 players. It doesn't really happen happen a lot, but he is still regarded, in my opinion, as a real winger. That is because teams are a lot more cohesive. Defensive units are required in every single team. And instead of winning games at the front with your attack, people and managers and, coaches, they're focusing on the defense. They're focusing on the back line first and then working their way forward. Because if you have a still defense and you don't let any goals in, you'll finish higher than an attacking force that scores many goals but concedes twice as many. Think about it. So coaching and coaching systems have really taken it into their grasp to make sure the fundamentals of defending are learned from a very young age and are bringing it all the way up into the leagues. We're seeing many new advanced systems of defending, including very low blocks and zonal defending, where if one man goes, then two men cover, just to stop the attacking forces. So that's why less goals are really being scored. That's why wingers aren't being as effective. It's just all an illusion. It's just all evolution. And it's just the way the game is going. That's why when one winger goes against the grain and shows their ability in a game, you really see that that is a proper winger. There is very few at the elite level at the moment, but the ones that are just about to break into that cast are the ones that are showing that they can take on a few players and score in a game. Look at the likes of Matoma. In the last few seasons, he was unknown. He's come out of nowhere, and broken into a Brighton team, being their #1 driving force and cementing himself as one of the best wingers in the league. Sooner or later, he is going to get a big move and become one of the best wingers in the world in his prime years at the likes of 27, 28, and 29. He is what I like to call an out-and-out winger, someone that plays his defender inside and out, someone that can not only go left of his defender but can also go right, someone that can not only come short but can also run in behind. He is an out-and-out winger, and he is my prime example for this video in terms of a real winger. Now, the reason why these wingers aren't as direct in games is because defensive systems have changed, and that is the simple answer for this debate of, are there any real wingers anymore? This is stupid. It's very stupid. Why are we making emotional football reels and football TikToks of, oh, I miss the days of Robin and Ribéry running the half of the pitch? When are we going to get a player like Ronaldinho that just takes on every single man and bangs it top bins from 30 yards? Do you know why he's a world-class player? Because he is 1 in a million. Wingers like Ronaldo, they don't come around often, bro. Just because there are a few real wingers in the world doesn't mean real wingers are dead. It just means that it's hard to see them, Maybe go and watch like the Saudi Arabian League, then you might see a real winger there, because they ain't taking on 10 man in the Premier League. Imagine Saka trying to take on the whole of the Man City team and bang it top bins like Ronaldinho did against Real Madrid. Game has changed. The main priority for teams now is to not lose the ball. So wingers, most of the time, they're running at the defender, and then if they don't see an option, if they can't take their man on, and if they're being shifted to one side, they're gonna turn back and they're gonna pass it, because the main thing being ingrained in players' heads is don't lose the ball, don't lose the ball, don't lose the ball, let me just pass it off. That's why the likes of Saka, you'll see him drive at his defender a couple times a game and just pass it back, because he's not gonna, try and take on this man and lose the ball about 8 times, because he knows what, the game plan is. There has been a game plan set up. So wingers aren't dead. Wingers have just changed. They have adapted, they have evolved, and there are a few that are at that elite level. This has been Jib Rules with a football analysis session. You know what I mean? Am I even qualified to do that? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a like, subscribe, please. I'm begging. We're gonna blow, inshallah. And I think the last winger that I have to mention is Luis Diaz, because when you talk about this feeling of jogo bonito and just playing with freedom, it doesn't matter if he has a bad game, a good game, he's always gonna pull out some sort of flary trick to just amaze the fans. Scoring 14 goals and getting 8 assists this season, he has shown to be a nice piece in that Liverpool attack. And I think if they just make a couple tweaks to it, they keep a Diaz, but they get rid of a Jota, they get rid of a Nunes, and they just make a couple adjustments, Diaz will thrive. He's also playing in front of a poor selection of left back right now, with Andy Robertson on his last legs, and also Tsimikas doesn't provide enough for him. Wingers in football are just slowly but surely coming back, and all they needed was some confidence. And right now there are many other wingers balling out on a weekly basis that I'm probably, not aware of. But you guys have to let me know. Who are the current wingers in football that are getting you off your seat and really inspiring this new kind of coming of age era of the winger? Because there's a bunch that I missed out. Even Pedro right now. Pedro. You guys remember Pedro from Barcelona? He's playing for Lazio. He's not putting up amazing numbers, but he's still playing. Alright guys, if you're still here at the end of this video, then you're a real one. I really don't know if you watched the entire thing or you skipped to the end, but from man to man, man to woman, or man to animal, thank you. But yeah, for those that stayed till the end of this video, Let me just give you like a sneak peek on other videos that I'm making. I'm going to be making a 2010s video soon. I'm going to be making a FIFA video soon. Not about me playing the game, but about the games in general. I'm going to be making another Aura video soon. And just follow me on Instagram for any other updates. This has been Jib Rules. Make sure you stay safe, stay blessed, and peace. And good night as well.